The WandaVision timeline and episode titles have been revealed. If you've watched the first 2 episodes of WandaVision, chances are you probably have a lot of questions, like what the heck is happening here? How is the Vision alive after being extremely murdered not once but twice in Avengers Infinity War? And most importantly, how can I buy a Stark Industries Toastmate 2000?
Say, this machine has some shine.
You said it.
Well, all of those questions will likely be answered in due time, but in the erstwhile we have brand new details about when exactly WandaVision takes place in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, as well as official episode titles and news about a scrapped Endgame post-credit scene that would have helped bridge the narrative gap between that movie and this series. So let's start with WandaVision, shall we? While the MCU prequel Black Widow was supposed to kick off Phase 4, followed by the Falcon and Bucky show on Disney+, well, the world had other plans, and the ongoing global pandemic made it so that WandaVision now officially kicks off Phase 4, following the epic showdown between Earth's mightiest heroes and the CrossFit California raisin himself, Thanos. Now, thanks to WandaVision star Teyonah Parris, we know this surreal series takes place immediately after the events of Endgame. Now, Parris plays Geraldine, a character that's actually, spoiler alert, even though it's been widely reported, the grown-up Monica Rambeau, a character we first met as a child in the 90s set Captain Marvel, and in the comics becomes a member of the Avengers under various monikers, including Captain Marvel, Pulsar, and Photon, to name just a few. Don't worry, there's way more. Speaking with TV Line, Parris said WandaVision picks up right after the events of Avengers Endgame, and for Monica, it's obviously years later from when we saw her as a girl in Captain Marvel. We get to find out what's been happening with her over those years that we missed, how she's grown and evolved. So clearly this is a Wanda who's just been through hell fighting Thanos and his army, and likely one who's additionally traumatized not only by the death of Tony Stark, but by the fact that when all of those dusted heroes came back through Doctor Strange's portals, Vision was sadly not among them. Now, keep in mind as well that Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige confessed in an interview with comicbook.com that Scarlet Witch could have taken down Thanos by herself during Endgame if he had not called down an orbital strike on her. So it's not surprising she can bend the fabric of reality as we know it to make this weird TV-themed alternate reality bubble in the town of Westview like we see in WandaVision. Now, speaking of Endgame, Vision himself, Paul Bettany spilled the beans in an IMDb video that Endgame originally was going to have a post-credit scene that would tee up the events of WandaVision. According to Bettany, at one point there was going to be a tag where Wanda opened a sort of body bag drawer, and there was the Vision. Now, when we last saw the Vision prior to his untimely demise, he was in Shuri's lab in Wakanda, where Black Panther's sciencey sister frantically worked to save the synthezoid from the scrap heap by extracting the Mind Stone from his forehead. Now, while we don't know if Shuri's experiments were successful, if she managed to back up Vision's personality matrix, this post-credit scene seems to indicate that Wanda made off with Vision's physical form at the bare minimum. However, as Bettany added, Kevin Feige kind of talked to me and said, I've got to pull the shots, and I was like, ugh, because I really wanted that profit participation. You know what? Stars, they really are just like us. So while the how and the why of WandaVision remain a mystery for the time being, we do have another layer that has been peeled back. The first 2 episodes, formerly Episode 1 and Episode 2, now have official titles on both IMDb and Disney+. As reported by Screen Rant, the first episode is now filmed before a live studio audience, and the second episode is now Don't Touch That Dial, which are both befitting of the classic TV theme that underpins the entire series. Now, the first episode title is also a neat metatextual reference to the fact that they really did film it in front of a live studio audience, something that Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany told Nerdist all about in our exclusive interviews, and if you haven't watched them yet, you really should. They're fantastic. I'll put a link to those in the description below. As for Don't Touch That Dial, it's an old saying meaning don't change the station or don't change the channel, which feels like an obvious reference to the SWORD agents who keep poking holes in Wanda's reality through both the radio transmissions at the committee meeting and that creepy beekeeper emerging from the sewers at the episode's end, which leads Wanda to use her powers to rewind reality to something that better suits her fantasy of domestic bliss with the Vision. As for what the future episodes will be called, well, your guess is as good as mine. We'll find out more though once the latest episode of WandaVision drops on Disney Plus in the wee hours of Friday morning. And you better believe we'll be back here tomorrow with bells on for a full breakdown of all the Easter eggs, references, and hidden connections featured in episode 3. That said, in the meantime, please tell us, what do you think of this news? What do you think future episodes of WandaVision will be called? And do you wish they left that post-credit scene in Endgame?
I do.
Let's discuss in the comments below, and for the latest and greatest in the world of pop culture, stay tuned to Nerdist.com.